Hello everyone. So sizokwenza enye revision lesson based on our functions. So now this will be our last revision lesson for functions. After this we'll move on to calculus and look at cubic functions, right? So ngaphandle kokuthi simoshe isikhathi, let's solve this question. But consider the function f of x is equals to 4 to the power minus x minus 2, right? And then they say calculate the coordinates of the intercept of f with the x's, right? So 5.1, sorry. Okay, so 5.1 we have to calculate x and y intercepts, right? We'll just start with the y-intercept, right? So by now I'm sure we all know what if we want to calculate the y-intercept, we'll let x be 0, right? Meaning f of 0 is equals to wherever we see x lapha ku function yethu, will put 0, f to the power minus 0, right? So here it's minus 1 to the power 0, right? And then minus 2. Okay, so we know what anything raised to the power of 0 is 1, so here we'll have 1 minus 2, and then our answer will be minus 1. So the coordinates of our y-intercept is 0, minus 1, right? And then we go on to x-intercept, and then there we let y be 0, that is f of x be 0, and then we know what our function f of x is 4 to the power minus x minus 2 is equals to 0. And then now this becomes a question of solving for x, right? So in order to solve for x, I will sort of use the laws of exponents, and I will make this 1 over 2 to the power x, right? 4 to the power minus x is the same as 1 over 4 to the power x, right? I think you all know how we got from there to there, right? So here I will have 1 over 4 to the power x minus 2. I'll take minus 2 to the other side. I'll have 1 over 4 to the power x is equals to 2, right? And then now my aim is to make the bases the same, right? From this step you can straight away use the log function and say x is equals to log 1 over 4 2, and then you'll get your answer, right? But then I will use the laws of exponents. So here I will have 2 to the power minus 2x is equals to 2, and then minus 2x should be equals to 1 because the bases are the same. Minus 2x is equals to 1, therefore x should be minus 1 over 2, right? If you press this in your calculator, you will also see what this is minus 1 over 2, right? Okay, so the coordinates of our x-intercept will be minus 1 over 2, 0, right? Minus 1 over 2, 0. Okay, and then siyaku 5.2. 5.2, they want us to write down the equation of the asymptote, right? We can write 5.2 there. The equation of the asymptote is, we know what we look at that value. So the equation of the asymptote is y equals to minus 2. Yeah, that's the equation of the asymptote. I'm sure at this stage we are like all comfortable with all the calculations that I'm doing now. So if not, ungazise and then ngizokwazi ukuthi ngichazele, right? And then 5.3, they want us to sketch the graph of f, right? So to sketch the graph of f, we will have we'll have our Cartesian plane, and then we will plot our 2 points, the x and y-intercept. I know what the y-intercept is 0, -1, that is somewhere there, and then the x-intercept is -1/2, 0, that is somewhere there, and then the equation of the asymptote is y equals to -2, so I know what my asymptote will be somewhere there, right? And then from there on I will just connect my two points, right? So my graph will have a decreasing shape. My graph is a decreasing function, right? This is -2, that is -1, that is -1/2. Okay, this is my y-axis, that is my x-axis, right? And then we go on to this was 5.3, we go on to 5.4. 5.4, they say write down the equation of g if g is the graph of f shifted 2 units up. So g of x is the graph of f shifted 2 units up, so I'll add 2 there, right? So now my equation for f, I know what it is, 4 to the power minus x minus 2 plus that 2 there. So g of x will be 4 to the power minus x, right? That was straightforward. So we go on to 5.5. They want us to solve the equation f of x equals to 3, and then you don't need to simplify your answer, right? F of x equals to 3 means we will take our original equation and say 4 to the power minus x minus 2 is equals to 3, right? And then I will change this 4 to the minus x as 1/4 to the power x, and then I will take minus 2 to the other side. I will have 3 plus 2, so I will have okay, I think I'm running out of space. I will have 1/4 to the power x is equals to 5, right? And then to solve for x, I'll use the log function. So this will be x equals to log base, which is 1/4 and 5. That will be my x, right? And then in decimal form, let me just quickly punch this in my calculator. I'll say log 1/4 5, and then I get minus 1.16. So x is minus 1.16, minus 1.16, right? And then you're done with question 5. That was an easy 12 marks. Guys, by this stage you should all be comfortable with what I'm doing, so that's why I'm sort of not going into detail steps lawa. I believe we are all on the same boat. If not, let us move together. If maybe unala usalela khona, please make sure ukuthi uyangazisa, because after this asisabuyela emuva siyaqhubekela ku calculus, right? So now I'll go on to question 6. Okay, question 6. Let's copy question 6, right? So question 6, what is the graph f of x equals to a to the power x for x less than or equals to 0 is sketched below. The point P, which is -6 -8, lies on the graph of f, as we can see there. And then the first question, they want us to calculate the value of a, right? So now to calculate the value of a, we will use the given point P and then plug in those x and y coordinates into our function, right? So 6.1, we have f of x equals to ax squared, right? For x less than 0, less than or equals to 0. Right, so this is the domain of our function x. the function exists for all x values greater than 0, right? It means the function exists to the left hand side of the y-axis, right? That is why our domain is x less than 0. We see what it is nothing on the right hand side of the y-axis, right? So to solve for a, we'll just substitute those points there. We know what when we have minus 8, when we substitute minus 6 in our equation, we'll get minus 8. Yeah? So here we'll have 36a is equals to minus 8, and then a will be minus 8 over 36 will simplify to minus 2 over 9, right? So that will be our value of a, right? If it happens to thola ukuthi a wako positive, then you should know that something is wrong. Look at the shape of that parabola there. You see when a is less than 0, let's discuss a quadratic function. You know that when a is less than 0, this is the shape. When a is greater than 0, that is the shape. If here it happens to your a is positive, then you should know that something is wrong. Okay, use that as a check. So moving on to question 6.2. So 6.2, they want us to determine the equation of the inverse, right? Again, I'm sure we all know what to do here. The equation of the inverse, let me write 6.2 there. The equation of the inverse in the form y equals to something, right? So now we know what the f of x is equals to minus 2 over 9 x squared, right? Because we solved for a there, right? And then now to find the inverse, the first step to do, you have your function, you have your equation of the function. The first step to do when you want to find an inverse is to swap your x and y, right? Where you see y, you put x, and where you see x, you put y. So I'll have minus x equals to minus 2 over 9 y squared, right? That is swapping x and y. Now that I have swapped x and y, I have to make y the subject of the formula, right? So I'll go ahead and have y squared is equals to minus 9 over 2x, and then I'll take the square root both sides, right? It will have plus of minus the square root of 9 or minus 9 over 2x, right? But then now remember our domain is restricted. So because our domain is x less than 0, in our inverse, the range, the domain will become the range. This is the range, this is the domain of the given function. Now this domain, when finding an inverse, will become the range. So where I see x, I put y. So this now will be my range. Ne? So because this is my range, my final equation for the inverse will be, because y cannot be above 0, it means here I will not take the positive square root. I will only use the negative square root. The negative square root of minus 9 over 2x. That will be my equation of the inverse, right? So this here is not my final answer. This is my final answer, right? So yeah, that is my inverse. We'll go on to 6.3. They want us to write down the range. As I've said, the domain of the function will now become the range. The range is simply y less than or equals to 0. Okay, and then now 6.4, they want us to draw the graph of the inverse and indicating the coordinates of a point on the graph other than the origin. Okay, so let us draw our Cartesian plane, and then now look at the graph of the function. We are given this point. To be able to sketch the graph of the inverse, we just need to interchange x and y, right? So this point P, kule graph le function, will become the point minus 8 minus 6 ku graph inverse. Notice ukuthi my x becomes y and my y becomes x. That is what we say we mean by interchanging x and y in our inverse. So here I'll have my minus 8 for x, and somewhere here I'll have my minus 6 for y, right? And then I just plot the point, and then I know the other point is the origin, and my shape will look like this. Okay, my shape will sort of look like that. My graph will look something like this, right? Okay, it's sort of difficult to draw a screen, so that will be the point, minus 8, minus 6, and then that will be my origin. This is the graph of the inverse. Okay, and then 6.5, they say determine the graph of f is reflected across the y-axis. The graph of f is reflected across the line y equals to x, and thereafter it is reflected across the x-axis. Determine the equation of the new function in this form. Right, so the first part of this statement says the graph of f is reflected across the line y equals to x. I did mention that whenever you are reflecting the function across the line y equals to x, you are simply moving from the function to its inverse. So when you are reflecting a function across this line y equals to x, you are simply moving from the function to its inverse. Now we already have the equation of the inverse, which is y equals to minus the square root of minus 9 over 2x, right? And then the second part of the statement says we reflect this now across the x-axis. So when you reflect this across the x-axis, it means you will have minus f of minus x, right? So that will be your function y. You are reflecting this first part. Okay, this first part here, y equals to f to the minus 1x. Here we are reflecting the function across the line y equals to x, which is this inverse here. And then when we are reflecting it across the x-axis, you then put a minus here, right? That is when you are reflecting it across the x-axis. So now our answer will be, this will be equals to minus the square root of minus 9 over 2x, right? And my final answer will be the positive square root of minus 9 over 2x, right? And then that graph will be somewhere there, because it's the reflection of the inverse across the x-axis. Okay, now that concludes our revision for functions. On our next videos, we'll look at calculus and cubic functions, right? If you are still not clear on some concepts, do let me know. And then those I'm getting it early. But then after next week, I want all of us to be on the same boat. We're only gonna be looking at calculus and cubic functions, right? So make sure you use the term that we have maybe sometime this weekend. Make sure you look at the areas that you are not comfortable with, comma functions, and then our questions on our umbuzo, right? Because after this we'll just go straight to calculus, right? Okay, that is it for this video.